Have a wonderful day. Enjoy the story, everyone. Darling, you forgot our 3-year anniversary. Sophia Bennett almost choked on her pretzel when a complete stranger wrapped his arm around her in the middle of Times Square, planting a wet kiss on her cheek. "What the heck?" she yelled, pushing the man so hard he stumbled into a family of Japanese tourists. The guy was tall, had perfectly tousled blonde hair that probably cost $300 to cut, and wore an Italian linen shirt that likely cost more than Sophia's monthly salary. His Patek Philippe watch gleamed discreetly on his wrist. He regained his balance and made a puppy dog expression that managed to be both irritating and kind of cute at the same time. "Please, just play along," he whispered desperately, discreetly gesturing toward a blonde woman with a perfect French manicure who was marching toward them like a tank in stilettos. "Ethan Carter," the woman called with icy elegance. Sophia noticed she had a sophisticated Connecticut accent. "You can't simply ignore me forever." "Who's Ethan Carter?" Sophia whispered back, confused. "I'm Ethan Carter," he replied, obviously. "And who's the ice princess with perfect French nails?" "My ex-girlfriend, Olivia. She doesn't handle rejection well." Sophia looked at Olivia, who was approaching like a Category 5 hurricane. Then she looked at Ethan, who seemed about to have a nervous breakdown. "How much do you pay?" she asked quickly. "What? How much do you pay for me to pretend to be your girlfriend for the next 5 minutes?" Ethan blinked several times. "200,000? 500,000. That's highway robbery. Look at the situation you got yourself into, sweetheart. $500. Or become shark food. Deal." Sophia transformed instantly. She threw herself into his arms, so forcefully she almost knocked them both down. When Olivia got close enough to hear, she practically shouted, "Love of my life, I bought the tickets for our honeymoon in Bali. My mom is so excited to meet you at dinner tonight." Olivia's expression was priceless. She stopped elegantly, her blue eyes widening with controlled surprise, as if she'd just discovered her favorite wine was out of stock. Excuse me, who is this person?" Olivia asked with cutting politeness. "This is Sophia, my fiancée," Ethan replied. Sophia realized he was getting into character. "Olivia, I already mentioned I was engaged." "Fiancée?" Olivia repeated, her composure wavering slightly. "You always said marriage was an unnecessary distraction for serious entrepreneurs." "I said that before I met the love of my life," Ethan replied, pulling Sophia closer. "Sometimes the right person changes everything." Sophia had to admit the guy was a good actor. She almost believed him for a second. "Prove it," Olivia demanded with forced politeness. "If you're really engaged, then where's the ring?" "Darn." Sophia looked at her empty hands, then at Ethan, who was clearly panicking. "Oh, the ring," Sophia said, thinking quickly. "It's being customized at Tiffany's. You know how it is." Ethan ordered something exclusive. "How much did it cost?" Olivia asked with genuine curiosity. $200,000. Sophia replied without blinking. Ethan almost choked, but recovered quickly. She deserved something unique. $200,000. Olivia repeated, visibly impressed despite trying to hide it. "That's considerable." "Yes. He's so generous." Sophia turned to Ethan with a radiant smile. "Last week, he took me to dinner at Le Bernardin just because it was Tuesday." Le Bernardin," Ethan repeated, getting into the game. "Of course, darling. You love their tasting menu." Olivia observed them for a moment, then said with controlled coldness, "This is unexpected, Ethan. You were always very focused on work. You hardly had time for serious relationships." "Hey," Ethan protested, genuinely offended. "My company demands dedication. We're leaders in AI innovation." "Yes, I know about your startup," Olivia said, with a condescending smile. "Very admirable. It's not a startup," Ethan corrected with a touch of wounded pride in his voice. "We're an established company in the corporate artificial intelligence market." Sophia realized Olivia was about to start a detailed analysis of his professional life, which was definitely not in the script. "Well, Olivia," she interrupted, "it was a pleasure meeting you, but Ethan and I have a reservation at Daniel in 15 minutes. "Daniel," Olivia repeated, clearly impressed. "They have a months-long waiting list." "Yes, but Ethan knows the chef." Sophia smiled sweetly. "Benefits of being successful, I imagine." "Oh, of course, Chef Daniel." Ethan nodded, getting into character. "We play golf together." Olivia watched them with calculating eyes. "Where are you getting married?" "Martha's Vineyard," Sophia replied automatically. "In the Hamptons," Ethan said at the same time. Tense silence. Martha's Vineyard was the first plan. Sophia corrected elegantly, but we decided on the Hamptons, more intimate, only 300 guests. 300 guests is intimate? Olivia asked, raising a perfectly waxed eyebrow. By our standards, Ethan replied, wrapping his arm around Sophia's waist. You know how it is, big family, lots of business contacts. Olivia stared at them for another moment, then sighed elegantly. Well, Ethan, I hope you're happy, even if this is surprising. Very surprising, Sophia agreed, leaning into Ethan. But sometimes the best things are unexpected. Before anyone could react, she grabbed Ethan's hand and guided him away, leaving Olivia standing in the middle of Times Square with a thoughtful expression. When they were at a safe distance, Sophia let go of Ethan and extended her hand. Wu bai mei yuan. Now, that was impressive, Ethan said, still somewhat dazed. $200,000 on the ring. Daniel, you're brilliant. Wu bai mei yuan. Oh, yes, of course. He pulled out a Hermes leather wallet and counted the bills without hesitation. You saved my life. Seriously. Olivia was being very persistent since we broke up. She shows up at my office, at my building, even at my favorite restaurant. She seems intense, Sophia commented, pocketing the money and noticing he had many more bills in his wallet. She's a corporate lawyer. Intensity is part of the profession, Ethan sighed. I met her at a charity gala. She seemed perfect on paper. Perfect on paper? You know, beautiful, intelligent, ambitious. The type of woman that makes sense for someone in my position. What position? Ethan hesitated. Let's say I have responsibilities, expectations. You talk like you're the Prince of England. Sophia laughed. Well, it was a pleasure doing business with you, Ethan Carter. From the established AI company, good luck with the persistent lawyer. She turned to leave, but Ethan called out. Wait, if you ever need someone to return the favor, I prefer to solve my own problems. She called back, but she was smiling. What she didn't know was that in exactly 1 hour and 17 minutes, she would discover that fate had a very cruel sense of humor, and that sometimes, when you think you're just making easy money, you're actually getting involved with someone much more important than you imagine. As she walked toward the building of the most important interview of her career, checking her reflection in store windows and trying not to think about how strange that encounter had been, a small voice in her head whispered that she should have asked more about Ethan's established company, but she ignored the voice. After all, what were the chances of running into a tech millionaire again? Sophia Bennett stood in front of the gleaming glass tower that housed Carter Technologies, smoothing down her navy blazer for the 15th time in 10 minutes. The building was impressive. 30 floors of steel and glass reaching toward the Manhattan sky like a monument to technological ambition. You've got this, she whispered to herself, clutching her leather portfolio containing her resume, references, and the company research she'd spent weeks perfecting. Marketing director position. Dream job. Don't mess this up. The lobby was a masterpiece of modern design. Marble floors that reflected the crystal chandeliers, contemporary art that probably cost more than her yearly rent, and a reception desk that looked like it belonged on a spaceship. She approached the impeccably dressed receptionist, who smiled with professional warmth. Good morning. I'm Sophia Bennett. I have an interview at 2 p.m. for the marketing director position. Of course, Miss Bennett, please take a seat. Someone will be with you shortly. Sophia settled into a leather chair that was probably worth more than her car and tried to calm her nerves. She'd been preparing for this interview for weeks. Carter Technologies was one of the fastest-growing AI companies in the country, and landing this position would be the career breakthrough she'd been working toward for years. She pulled out her phone and reviewed her notes one more time. Interview prep. Carter Technologies, founded 5 years ago, specializes in AI solutions for Fortune 500 companies, valued at $2.8 billion. CEO E. Carter, age 29, Harvard MBA, former Goldman Sachs, known for innovative workplace culture, recently launched a revolutionary predictive analytics platform. A young woman in a crisp white shirt approached her. Miss Bennett, I'm Ava, Mr. Carter's executive assistant. He's ready to see you now. Sophia's heart hammered as they rode the elevator to the 28th floor. The executive level was even more impressive than the lobby. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of Central Park, and the hallways were lined with awards and newspaper clippings praising the company's innovations. Mr. Carter will see you in the conference room, Ava said, opening a set of double doors. He'll be with you in just a moment." The conference room was stunning, a massive table surrounded by ergonomic chairs, wall-mounted screens, and windows that made Sophia feel like she was floating above the city. She set her portfolio on the table and took a deep breath, running through her practiced introduction one more time. The door opened behind her. "Sorry to keep you waiting. I was just finishing up a call with our investors." Sophia turned around, and her mouth fell open. Standing in the doorway, now wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit instead of the Italian linen shirt, was Ethan Carter. The same Ethan Carter who had paid her $500 to pretend to be his fiancée exactly 1 hour and 23 minutes ago. The same Ethan Carter, who was apparently the CEO of the company where she was interviewing for her dream job. For a moment, they both froze like deer in headlights. Ethan's expression cycled through surprise, recognition, panic, and what might have been amusement. Sophia felt her brain short-circuit as she tried to process this impossible coincidence. "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. "Miss Bennett," Ethan said slowly, his voice carefully professional, "please have a seat." "You're the E. Carter." Sophia's voice cracked slightly. "You're the CEO?" "I am," he replied, closing the door and walking to the opposite side of the table. "And you're interviewing for our marketing director position." They stared at each other across the mahogany table like poker players trying to read each other's hands. Sophia's mind was racing. This was either the most incredible stroke of luck or the most catastrophic coincidence in the history of job interviews. "So," Ethan said, settling into his chair with what appeared to be barely contained amusement, "tell me about yourself, Miss Bennett." Sophia blinked. "Are we seriously going to pretend that an hour ago I wasn't calling you a highway robber in Times Square? An hour ago, you also claimed to be my fiancée." Ethan pointed out, "If we're going to discuss recent events, we should probably mention that you charged me $500 for the service. You paid me $500 because your ex-girlfriend was stalking you." "Olivia was not stalking me. She was being professionally persistent." "There's a difference." Ethan leaned back in his chair, and for the first time since entering the room, he looked genuinely amused. "Miss Bennett, I have to say, this is by far the most interesting interview I've ever conducted." Sophia felt her professional composure cracking. "Look, Mr. Carter." "Ethan." "Mr. Carter," she emphasized. "I know this looks bad. I know this is the weirdest coincidence in the universe, but I need you to know that I had absolutely no idea who you were when I agreed to help you. I thought you were just some random rich guy with relationship problems." "Just some random rich guy?" Ethan raised an eyebrow. "That's actually refreshing." "Refreshing? Do you have any idea how many people try to get close to me because of my money or my company? And here you were, treating me like a complete nuisance and charging me for the privilege." Sophia stared at him. "Are you saying you enjoyed being insulted and extorted?" "I wouldn't call it extortion. More like freelance acting services at premium rates." Despite herself, Sophia felt her lips twitch. Premium rates for premium drama. "Exactly." Ethan leaned forward. "Though I have to ask, $200,000 for an engagement ring. Even for a fake engagement, that seemed excessive. I was improvising." "You're the one who started talking about Chef Daniel and golf games." "I do actually know Chef Daniel." "Of course you do." Sophia shook her head. "Of course, the fake boyfriend I randomly acquired turns out to be a billionaire CEO who actually knows all the fancy people I made up stories about. Billionaire is a slight exaggeration. I'm only worth about 800 million. Sophia stared at him. "Did you just say only 800 million? "Well, on paper. Most of it's tied up in company stock." "Oh, well, that makes it totally relatable then." Ethan laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was warm and genuine. "You know, most people who find out about my net worth either become incredibly nervous or start calculating how to get a piece of it. You seem annoyed by it, because it's ridiculous. An hour ago, you were a weird guy in Times Square having relationship drama. Now you're some tech mogul, and I'm supposed to just, what, pretend this is normal?" "Nothing about this situation is normal," Ethan agreed. "The question is, what do we do about it?" Sophia looked down at her portfolio, then back at Ethan. "I suppose you're going to tell me I can't have the job because of what happened earlier." "Actually," Ethan said slowly, "I'm more interested than ever." "What?" "Ms. Bennett, Sophia, do you know how many marketing directors I've interviewed who spent the entire time trying to impress me with how much they loved my company and how they'd always dreamed of working here? Probably all of them. Every single one. And do you know how many of them told me I was a highway robber and charged me money for services rendered? Just me, I'm guessing. Just you. Ethan smiled. Tell me, what's your marketing philosophy? Sophia blinked at the sudden shift to professional territory. My marketing philosophy? Yes. How do you approach brand strategy, customer engagement? What makes you different from every other marketing director in New York? She took a deep breath, her training kicking in. I believe in authentic storytelling. People don't buy products anymore. They buy stories, emotions, connections. The brands that succeed are the ones that make their customers feel something real. Go on. Carter Technologies has incredible innovation. But your marketing feels cold, technical. You're selling features when you should be selling dreams. Your AI doesn't just process data. It gives people back their time. It solves problems they didn't even know they had. That's not technology. That's magic. Ethan leaned forward, his expression suddenly intense. What would you change? Everything, Sophia said without hesitation. Your campaigns, your messaging, your entire brand voice. You're speaking to CTOs when you should be speaking to human beings. You want to know why your customer acquisition costs are so high? Because you're making people think instead of making them feel, and you could fix that. I could revolutionize it. Sophia felt her confidence returning. Give me 6 months, and I'll show you marketing campaigns that make people remember why they fell in love with technology in the first place. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, studying her with those sharp blue eyes. You realize that if I hire you, we'll have to work together every day. Given our unusual first meeting, that could be awkward. Mr. Carter, Sophia said, straightening her shoulders. I'm a professional. What happened in Times Square was a one-time business transaction. If you hire me, it will be because I'm the best person for this job, not because of some weird coincidence. And if Olivia shows up at the office looking for her fiancé, Sophia smiled, then you'll have to handle your own relationship drama. My rates for fake girlfriend services just went up significantly. Ethan laughed again. How significantly? Let's just say you can't afford me anymore, Mr. 800 million on paper. Challenge accepted. Ethan stood up and extended his hand across the table. Welcome to Carter Technologies, Miss Bennett. You start Monday. Sophia stared at his outstretched hand. Are you serious? Dead serious. You're exactly what this company needs. Someone who's not impressed by my money and not afraid to tell me when I'm wrong. She shook his hand, trying to ignore the little jolt of electricity that ran up her arm. This is either the beginning of something amazing or a complete disaster. In my experience, Ethan said, his smile turning slightly mischievous. The best things usually start as disasters. As Sophia gathered her portfolio and headed toward the door, she couldn't help but wonder what she'd just gotten herself into. Working for Ethan Carter was going to be interesting, to say the least. Oh, and Sophia, Ethan called as she reached the door. Yes? Next time Olivia shows up, I might just take you up on those premium rates. Sophia grinned. Good luck affording them, boss. Sophia Bennett stood outside Carter Technologies at exactly 8:47 a.m. on Monday morning, clutching her third coffee of the day and questioning every life decision that had led to this moment. She'd spent the entire weekend oscillating between excitement about her dream job and panic about working for the man she'd fake engaged in Times Square. Professional, competent, definitely not thinking about how good he looked in that suit, she muttered to herself, then immediately realized she was talking about Ethan's appearance. Great. 3 minutes into my first day, and I'm already losing it. The lobby was bustling with the Monday morning energy of a successful tech company. Employees swiped key cards and headed to elevators, everyone looking purposeful and caffeinated. Sophia approached the reception desk, where a different woman than Friday was stationed. Good morning. I'm Sophia Bennett, the new marketing director. It's my first day. Oh, wonderful. I'm Chloe. Ava left your onboarding packet and temporary keycard right here. Chloe handed her a sleek folder with the Carter Technologies logo. You'll be on the 15th floor. Ava will meet you there at 9 a.m. sharp. The elevator ride to the 15th floor gave Sophia time to flip through her onboarding materials. Welcome to Carter Technologies. Employee. Sophia Bennett. Position. Marketing Director. Start date. Monday, March 15th. Reporting Manager. Ethan Carter. CEO. Desk assignment. 15 amperes. Marketing Department Handbook. Page 23. Fraternization Policy. Sophia paused on that last line. Fraternization Policy. She quickly flipped to page 23. Carter Technologies maintains strict guidelines regarding romantic relationships between employees. Any romantic involvement between staff members must be disclosed to HR within 48 hours. Relationships between managers and direct reports require additional documentation and approval from the executive team. Well, that's not ominous at all, she whispered. Just as the elevator dinged on the 15th floor, the marketing department was a sleek, open workspace with floor-to-ceiling windows, modern furniture, and enough monitors to launch a space mission. About a dozen people were already at their desks, and conversations quieted as Sophia stepped out of the elevator. You must be Sophia. A petite woman with curly red hair bounded over with infectious enthusiasm. I'm Mia Rodriguez, Senior Marketing Specialist. We are so excited to have a real marketing director. Finally, the last guy quit 6 months ago, after Mr. Carter rejected his 5th campaign proposal in a row, Mia explained, then quickly added, but I'm sure you'll do great. You must be amazing if Mr. Carter hired you personally. Before Sophia could respond, Ava appeared with military precision. Good morning, Miss Bennett. I trust you found everything in your packet satisfactory. Yes, though I have a question about the fraternization policy. Standard corporate language. Nothing to worry about unless you're planning to date the CEO, Ava said with a perfectly straight face. Shall we begin your orientation? Sophia nearly choked on her coffee. Right. No CEO dating. Got it. The next 2 hours were a whirlwind of introductions, system passwords, and department overviews. Sophia met the entire marketing team. Mia, eternal optimist. Lucas, data analytics genius. Zoe, creative director with purple hair. And Noah, social media manager who looked barely old enough to drive. So, Mia said as they settled around Sophia's new desk, what's your strategy for dealing with Mr. Carter? The last director tried to impress him with fancy presentations, but Mr. Carter just said they were soulless corporate nonsense. He said that? Sophia asked, genuinely curious. Oh, yes, Lucas chimed in. He's very direct about feedback. Last month, he told the sales team their pitch deck had all the emotional resonance of a tax document, but he's not mean, Zoe added quickly. He's actually pretty cool when he's not in CEO mode. Sometimes he brings his dog to work. He has a dog? Golden retriever named Luna, Noah said. Super friendly. Unlike Mr. Carter's ex-girlfriend who showed up here Friday afternoon, Sophia's coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. His ex-girlfriend was here? Oh, yeah. Total Ice Queen, Mia said. Blonde, fancy suit, demanding to see him. Security had to escort her out when she wouldn't take no for an answer. She kept insisting she was his emergency contact, Lucas added, which was weird because she definitely wasn't in our system. Sophia's mind raced. Olivia had come to Ethan's office after their Times Square encounter. Did she say what she wanted? Sophia asked, trying to sound casual. Something about discussing their future and clearing up misunderstandings, Zoe replied. Security said she mentioned a fiancé, but that's impossible because Mr. Carter isn't engaged. Right, Sophia said weakly. Impossible. Speaking of Mr. Carter, Ava appeared beside their desk cluster like a perfectly dressed ninja. He'd like to see you in his office for your first day check-in. Sophia's stomach dropped. Now? The elevator ride to the 28th floor felt like ascending to her doom. What if Olivia had told Ethan about their fake engagement? What if he'd changed his mind about hiring her? What if this whole thing was about to explode in her face? Ava led her to a corner office that was somehow both impressive and surprisingly welcoming. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning city views, but the space also featured comfortable seating areas, bookshelves filled with actual books, and, yes, a dog bed in the corner where a golden retriever was currently napping. That's Luna, Ethan said, looking up from his computer. He was wearing a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than her previous month's salary. But his tie was slightly loosened, and his hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it. She's friendlier than I am before 10 a.m. She's beautiful, Sophia said, grateful for a safe conversation topic. Please sit. Ethan gestured to the chairs across from his desk. How's your first morning going? Team treating you well? Everyone's been wonderful, very welcoming. Sophia settled into her chair, trying to read his expression. Though I did hear you had an interesting visitor Friday afternoon. Ethan's expression darkened. Ah, yes. Olivia decided to make an unscheduled appearance. The team mentioned something about emergency contacts and discussions about the future. Olivia has a flexible relationship with reality, Ethan said dryly. She seems to believe that our relationship was more serious than it actually was. She's also convinced that my supposed engagement is some sort of elaborate ruse to avoid her. Technically, it was an elaborate ruse, true, but she doesn't need to know that. Ethan leaned back in his chair. She's threatened to investigate my mysterious fiancé. I may need to warn you that you could become a person of interest in Olivia's personal investigation. Me? Why would she? Sophia stopped as realization dawned. Oh no, she knows my name from Times Square. She knows your name, and now you conveniently work at my company. If Olivia does any digging, she's going to find that connection. How much digging could she possibly do? Ethan gave her a look that suggested she was being adorably naive. Olivia is a corporate lawyer specializing in hostile takeovers. Investigating people is literally her job. If she wants to find information about you, she will. Sophia felt panic rising in her chest. What kind of information? Everything. Education, previous employment, financial records, social media history, probably your high school yearbook photos. This is a disaster, Sophia groaned, dropping her head into her hands. My first day at my dream job, and I'm already caught up in some corporate lawyer's investigation into fake engagements. Hey, Ethan's voice was surprisingly gentle. It's not a disaster. It's just complicated. Complicated? Sophia looked up at him. Your ex-girlfriend is about to launch a full-scale investigation into my life because she thinks I'm your fake fiancé, which I technically was for 5 minutes, and now I work for you. That's not complicated. That's a plot from a bad romantic comedy. Ethan was quiet for a moment, then said, You know what? The really crazy part is what? In all the interviews I conducted for this position, not one person made me laugh the way you did Friday. Not one person challenged me or called me out on anything. They were all perfectly qualified, perfectly professional, and perfectly boring. And I'm imperfectly unqualified, imperfectly unprofessional, and imperfectly chaotic. You're interesting, Ethan said simply, and interest is a rare commodity in my world. Their eyes met across his desk. And for a moment, Sophia forgot they were boss and employee. She forgot about Olivia's investigation and the fraternization policy and the absurdity of their situation. For just a moment, she saw something in Ethan's eyes that looked almost like longing. Then Luna the dog wandered over and put her head on Sophia's lap, breaking the spell. She likes you, Ethan said, his voice back to professional neutrality. Luna's usually suspicious of new people. Maybe she can sense that I'm already part of the family, Sophia said, then immediately realized how that sounded. I mean the work family, the team, not family. Right, work family. But Ethan was smiling as he said it. A knock on the door interrupted them. Ava entered with her usual efficiency. Mr. Carter, I have Olivia on line 1. She says it's urgent regarding a personal matter. Ethan and Sophia exchanged glances. Tell her I'm in meetings all day, Ethan said. She said she anticipated that response and asked me to remind you that she has your mother's phone number. Ethan closed his eyes. Of course she does. Should I put her through? Ava asked. No, Ethan said firmly. Schedule a call for later this week. Keep it professional. After Ava left, Sophia looked at Ethan with newfound sympathy. She has your mother's phone number? Olivia is nothing if not thorough. Ethan sighed. She and my mother got along well when we were dating. Mom still asks about her. Yikes. Yeah. Ethan straightened in his chair, returning to business mode. But that's my problem to deal with. Your problem is creating a marketing strategy that doesn't make me want to set the entire department on fire. Challenge accepted, Sophia said, standing up. Though I should probably warn you, I have some pretty radical ideas about brand messaging. Good. Radical is exactly what we need. As Sophia headed toward the door, Ethan called out, Oh, and Sophia, yes? Welcome to Carter Technologies. Try not to let my ex-girlfriend scare you away before you've been here a full week. Are you kidding? Sophia grinned. After dealing with you in Times Square, Olivia seems like a piece of cake. Famous last words, Ethan muttered as she left. Walking back to the elevator, Sophia realized that despite the chaos, the complications, and the looming threat of Olivia's investigation, she was actually excited about this job. Working with Ethan was going to be challenging, frustrating, and probably completely unpredictable. She couldn't wait. 3 weeks into her new position at Carter Technologies, Sophia Bennett had completely revolutionized the marketing department's morning routine. Instead of the previous director's dreary 8 a.m. status meetings, She'd instituted coffee and chaos sessions where the team gathered around her desk with lattes and brainstormed while throwing stress balls at a whiteboard covered in competitor logos. "Okay, team," Sophia announced on this particular Wednesday morning, balancing her fourth espresso of the day while reviewing the latest campaign metrics on her laptop. "Our customer acquisition costs are down 18%. Engagement rates are up 43%. And Lucas's data shows we're actually reaching humans instead of robots for the first time in Carter Tech history. The AI that gets you campaign is performing beyond our wildest projections," Lucas reported, practically bouncing in his ergonomic chair. "The video series where real customers talk about how our AI gave them time for their kids' soccer games. It's gone viral on LinkedIn. We've had 3 Fortune 500 companies request demos, just from that content alone." Mia waved her tablet excitedly. "And the social media response has been incredible. People are actually sharing our content instead of scrolling past it. We've gained 15,000 followers in 2 weeks. Noah's been fielding interview requests from TechCrunch, Forbes, and Marketing Today." Speaking of interviews, Zoe interjected with a mischievous grin. "Has anyone else noticed that a certain CEO has been finding excuses to visit the marketing department approximately 3 times more often than he used to?" Sophia nearly choked on her espresso. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, please." Noah laughed, not looking up from his dual-monitor setup where he was responding to social media comments. "Yesterday, Mr. Carter came down here to discuss quarterly projections, but spent 20 minutes asking your opinion about the office coffee selection. The coffee here is terrible," Sophia defended. "It was a legitimate business discussion about employee satisfaction and productivity. And the day before that, he wanted your input on the new employee wellness program," Mia added with barely contained glee, "which mysteriously required a 45-minute conversation about work-life balance, while you two walked around the entire building. He's thorough in his management approach," Sophia said weakly, but she could feel her cheeks warming. The truth was, Ethan had been finding increasingly creative reasons to spend time with the marketing team, and more specifically, with her. Their professional interactions had evolved from strictly business to something that felt dangerously close to flirting disguised as corporate strategy discussions. "Oh, he's thorough. All right." Lucas smirked. "Yesterday, I heard him asking Ava to reschedule a board meeting so he could attend our campaign presentation. Since when does the CEO personally attend departmental presentations for campaigns that haven't even launched yet?" Before Sophia could formulate a response that didn't involve admitting she'd been looking forward to Ethan's visits more than she should, her phone buzzed with a text message. "Ethan Carter, CEO, emergency meeting, my office now. Bring your crisis management skills." "What's wrong?" Mia asked, noticing Sophia's expression change. "I'm not sure, but I think I'm about to find out." Sophia grabbed her laptop and coffee. "Hold down the fort. If I'm not back in an hour, assume I've been fired and start updating your resumes." "You're not getting fired," Zoe called after her. "You're the best thing that's happened to this company's brand since ever." The elevator ride to the 28th floor felt different this time. Instead of pre-interview nerves or first-day anxiety, Sophia felt a familiar flutter of anticipation mixed with genuine concern. Ethan's text had sounded urgent, and in the 3 weeks she'd been working here, she'd learned that Ethan Carter didn't use the word emergency lightly. Ava was at her desk, looking unusually flustered, which immediately set off alarm bells. Ava never looked flustered. "He's waiting for you," Ava said without her usual professional pleasantries. "And, Ms. Bennett, good luck." Sophia knocked and entered Ethan's office to find him pacing behind his desk like a caged tiger. His suit jacket was thrown over his chair, his sleeves were rolled up, and his hair looked like he'd been running his hands through it repeatedly. Luna was hiding under her dog bed, which Sophia had learned was the golden retriever's equivalent of a storm warning. "We have a problem," Ethan said without preamble. "Actually, we have several problems, but they're all connected to one person. Olivia. Ethan stopped pacing and turned to face her. "She's been busy since our last conversation." Sophia set her laptop on his conference table and took a seat. "How busy are we talking?" "She's hired a private investigator." "A what?" "A private investigator to look into you, into us, into our entire supposed relationship." Ethan pulled out his phone and showed her a series of text messages. "She's been documenting everything. Your employment here, the timeline of when you started, the fact that your hiring was unusually rapid for a company that typically has month-long interview processes." Sophia scrolled through the messages, her stomach sinking with each line. Very interesting that your fiancé started working at your company exactly 3 days after our Times Square encounter. Also fascinating that she was hired for a position that had been open for 6 months with no posted job listing and no other interviewed candidates. I've spoken with Rachel Morrison from HR. Apparently, Sophia Bennett's hiring paperwork was processed personally by the CEO. How romantic. Oh no, Sophia whispered. How does she even know all this? Olivia has connections everywhere. She went to law school with half the HR directors in Manhattan, and the other half owe her favors. Ethan sat down across from her, his expression grim. But that's not the worst part. There's a worse part? She scheduled a lunch meeting with my mother. Sophia's laptop screen went dark as she stared at Ethan in horror. Your mother? This Friday at Le Bernardin. The same restaurant you mentioned during our fake engagement performance. Ethan rubbed his temples like he was fighting a headache. She's going to tell my mother that I'm engaged to someone I allegedly just met, who conveniently works for my company, and that the whole thing seems suspiciously arranged. What does your mother know about us? About the engagement? Nothing. I haven't told my family anything because I was hoping this would all blow over. Ethan laughed bitterly. I should have known better. Olivia doesn't blow over. She's like a Category 5 hurricane, disguised as a sophisticated professional woman. Sophia leaned back in her chair, processing the implications. So, your mother is going to find out from your ex-girlfriend that you're supposedly engaged to an employee she's never heard of, right after said employee mysteriously got hired under unusual circumstances. That's a remarkably accurate summary of our impending disaster. Yes. And Olivia will have evidence that the timeline doesn't make sense, that the hiring was suspicious, and that we were together in Times Square before I started working here. Also accurate, which means she can prove we were lying about the engagement. Prove is a strong word. She can present a compelling case that raises serious questions about our story. Sophia stood up and began pacing the length of Ethan's office, her mind racing. Okay, let's think about this logically. What are Olivia's actual goals here? To prove I'm not really engaged and that you're not my real fiancé? No, that's her method. What's her endgame? What does she actually want? Ethan considered this. She wants me back. She thinks if she can expose our fake engagement, I'll realize she was right about us being perfect together, and we'll get back together. And what happens when she succeeds in proving we're not really engaged? I become available again. And she resumes her campaign to win me back. Exactly. Sophia stopped pacing and turned to face him. So, the question is, how do we make sure she doesn't succeed? Short of actually getting engaged, I'm not sure we have many options. The words hung in the air between them like a challenge. Sophia felt her heart rate spike as the implication of what Ethan had just said settled in. You're not suggesting I'm not suggesting anything, Ethan said quickly. I'm just pointing out that Olivia's investigation would be significantly less effective if our engagement were real. Real? Sophia repeated slowly. Hypothetically real. Hypothetically, they stared at each other across the office, both clearly thinking the same impossible thought. The silence stretched between them, filled with the weight of a suggestion that was simultaneously crazy and oddly logical. This is insane, Sophia said finally. Completely insane. I've been working here for 3 weeks, 22 days. We barely know each other. I know you take your coffee with oat milk and 2 sugars. I know you're left-handed, but write with your right hand, because a teacher forced you to switch in 3rd grade. I know you're allergic to shellfish, and you have a scar on your knee from falling off your bike when you were 7. Sophia blinked. How do you know all that? I pay attention. Ethan's voice was softer now. I know you reorganized the entire marketing strategy in your first week and increased our engagement rates by 40%. I know you stay late every Tuesday to help Mia with her analytics reports because she's still learning the new software. I know you bring Luna treats even though I never asked you to. And she waits by the elevator every morning because she's hoping you'll visit. Ethan, I know this is crazy. He continued, I know it's the worst idea either of us has ever had, but I also know that Olivia isn't going to stop. She's going to keep investigating, keep digging, keep trying to prove we're lying, and eventually, she's going to succeed. So, what are you proposing exactly? Ethan took a deep breath. I'm proposing that we make this real. Not the engagement, necessarily, but the relationship. We start actually dating. We let people see us together outside of work. We create a legitimate timeline that Olivia can investigate all she wants without finding any lies. You want us to fake date for real? I want us to real date for fake reasons that become real reasons. Sophia's head was spinning. You realize how complicated this would be? The fraternization policy alone? I'm the CEO. I can handle the fraternization policy. Your employees would think you're giving me special treatment. Your work speaks for itself. No one would question your qualifications. Your mother would meet me under completely false pretenses. My mother would love you under any pretenses. Olivia would be furious. Olivia is already furious. Sophia sat back down, her mind whirling with possibilities and complications. Let me make sure I understand this correctly. You're asking me to enter into a fake relationship that would become a real relationship in order to fool your ex-girlfriend's investigation into our previous fake relationship. When you put it like that, it sounds even crazier. It is crazy. Sophia looked at Ethan, really looked at him. His hair was still disheveled. His expression was earnest and slightly desperate. Sophia finished, but her voice was shaky. Right. Strategic for the cameras. Absolutely for the cameras. They stood there for another moment, still in each other's arms, both knowing they were lying. I should probably get you home, Ethan said finally. Probably, Sophia agreed, but neither of them moved. The valet clearing his throat broke the spell, and they separated reluctantly. The drive back to Sophia's apartment was quiet, but it was a comfortable quiet, filled with the kind of awareness that comes after a first kiss that changes everything. So, Ethan said as they pulled up in front of her building, tomorrow, I'll probably know what Olivia told my mother, and by Saturday, we'll likely need to face whatever consequences that conversation produces. Are you worried about Olivia's investigation? Not really. About meeting my mother's expectations for her future daughter-in-law? Terrified. For what it's worth, Sophia said as she gathered her purse, I had a really good time tonight, strategic dinner or not. Good enough to do it again without the surveillance. I'd like that, she said, then leaned over and kissed his cheek. Good night, Ethan. Try not to overthink whatever your mother says tomorrow. Easier said than done, he replied. But he was smiling as she got out of the car. Walking up to her apartment, Sophia realized that somewhere between the wine, the conversation, and that kiss that was supposed to be for show, she'd stopped thinking about their relationship as fake. Whatever was happening between her and Ethan felt undeniably, complicatedly, wonderfully real. And if Olivia's investigation forced them to figure out what they actually wanted from each other, well, maybe that wasn't the worst thing that could happen, even if it was definitely going to be the most complicated. Friday morning at Carter Technologies dawned with the kind of crisp autumn energy that made Manhattan feel electric with possibility. Sophia Bennett arrived at the office 45 minutes early, not because she had extra work to catch up on, but because she'd been awake since 5 a.m., replaying every moment of her dinner with Ethan, and couldn't bear to stay in her apartment, pretending to sleep any longer. The marketing department was blissfully quiet at this hour, giving her time to process the seismic shift that had occurred in her relationship with Ethan Carter over the course of one strategically planned dinner that had turned into the most genuine date of her life. She settled at her desk with her first coffee of the day, trying to focus on campaign analytics instead of the memory of Ethan's lips against hers, when her phone buzzed with a text message. Ethan Carter, CEO. Emergency breakfast meeting. My office. Ada Freeze. M. Bring coffee for 2, and your crisis management skills. We're going to need both. Sophia glanced at her watch. 7:50. 2 a.m. Whatever had happened during Ethan's lunch with his mother yesterday had clearly not gone according to plan. She grabbed 2 large coffees from the executive floor kitchen and took the elevator up to the 28th floor, where she found Ava already at her desk, despite the early hour. He's been here since 6 a.m., Ava said without preamble, her usual professional composure showing cracks of genuine concern. The lunch with his mother yesterday, let's just say it didn't go well. And, Ms. Bennett, Olivia has requested a meeting with both of you today at 2 p.m. Both of us? Sophia felt her stomach drop. Why would she want to meet with me? I suspect we're about to find out, Ava replied, gesturing toward Ethan's office door. He's waiting for you. Sophia knocked and entered to find Ethan standing at his floor-to-ceiling windows, still wearing yesterday's shirt, though he'd clearly slept in the office. His hair was disheveled in a way that had nothing to do with styling and everything to do with running his hands through it repeatedly. Luna was curled up on her dog bed, occasionally lifting her head to watch Ethan pace with worried golden eyes. Please tell me you brought caffeine, Ethan said without turning around. 2 large coffees, extra shots, and I stopped by the bakery downstairs for those blueberry muffins you like, Sophia said, setting the coffee and pastries on his conference table. Now, tell me exactly how bad yesterday's lunch was. Ethan finally turned to face her, and Sophia could see the exhaustion and stress etched in his features. My mother knows everything. Everything? Olivia provided her with a complete timeline of our relationship, supported by photographic evidence, witness statements, and what appears to be a comprehensive background check on you. Ethan sat down heavily and reached for his coffee like it was a lifeline. She knows we met in Times Square 3 weeks ago. She knows you were hired immediately afterward, under unusual circumstances. She knows our entire engagement story was fabricated. How could she possibly know all that? Because Olivia is extraordinarily thorough. And my mother is extraordinarily perceptive. Ethan rubbed his temples. The moment Olivia mentioned that my fiancé worked for my company, Mom started asking questions. When did we meet? How long had we been dating before you started working here? Why hadn't I mentioned you before? And you told her the truth. I tried to stick to our cover story, but my mother has known me for 29 years. She can tell when I'm lying. Ethan looked up at Sophia with an expression that was equal parts exhausted and amused. Plus, Olivia had security camera footage from Times Square, showing our initial encounter. Apparently, our fake engagement performance was captured from multiple angles by tourist cameras and traffic surveillance. Sophia sank into the chair across from him. So, she has video evidence of me charging you $500 to pretend to be your fiancé. She has video evidence of what she's calling a business transaction involving fraudulent romantic claims for monetary compensation. That makes it sound like I'm running some kind of con game. Olivia's a lawyer. Making things sound worse than they are is her specialty. Ethan finally smiled, though it was tired around the edges. But here's the interesting part. My mother's reaction wasn't what I expected. What did you expect? Disappointment. Lectures about responsibility and family reputation. Demands that I fix this immediately and apologize to Olivia for wasting her time. And instead? She laughed. Sophia blinked. She laughed. For about 5 minutes straight. Apparently, the idea of me paying a stranger to pretend to be my fiancé in order to escape Olivia's persistence struck her as the most entertaining thing that's happened to our family in years. Your mother found our fake engagement amusing? She found it refreshingly honest about my actual feelings toward Olivia. Ethan's smile became more genuine. Quote, if you're willing to stage elaborate performances to avoid a woman, darling, perhaps that's a sign you shouldn't be dating her. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She also wants to meet you today. Before our meeting with Olivia. Today? Sophia's voice rose an octave. As in this afternoon today? As in lunch at 12:30 today? She's coming to the office. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand, the gesture now as natural as breathing. She wants to meet the woman who inspired her son to such creative lengths to avoid his ex-girlfriend. Ethan, I can't meet your mother under these circumstances. She knows I'm not really your fiancé. She knows our entire relationship started as a business transaction. What am I supposed to say to her? You're supposed to be yourself, Ethan said simply. Because here's the other thing my mother said yesterday. She wants to understand why I was willing to go to such elaborate lengths to convince Olivia I was unavailable. But I've never brought home any woman I was actually serious about. And what did you tell her? I told her that maybe I'd never met anyone worth bringing home before. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Sophia felt her heart rate accelerate as she processed what Ethan had just said. You told your mother that I'm worth bringing home? I told my mother that you're the first woman I've ever met who makes me want to be worth bringing home. Ethan corrected softly. There's a difference. Before Sophia could respond to this declaration, Ava's voice came through the intercom. Mr. Carter, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Olivia is on line 1. She says it's urgent and concerns the meeting this afternoon. Ethan and Sophia exchanged glances. Put her through, Ethan said, pressing the speaker button. Ethan. Olivia's voice filled the office, crisp and professional with an undertone of satisfaction. I trust your mother enjoyed our lunch yesterday. Hello, Olivia. Yes, she found it very illuminating. I'm sure she did. I'm calling because I wanted to give you an opportunity to handle this situation with some dignity before our meeting this afternoon. What exactly are you proposing? I'm proposing that you admit your engagement is a sham, terminate Ms. Bennett's employment to avoid any appearance of impropriety, and we can all move forward as adults. Sophia felt a surge of anger at Olivia's casual suggestion that she should be fired, but Ethan's expression had gone completely cold. "Let me make sure I understand," Ethan said, his voice dangerously quiet. "You're suggesting I fire one of the most talented marketing directors I've ever worked with because you don't approve of how we met. I'm suggesting you fire a woman you hired under questionable circumstances immediately after paying her to impersonate your fiancée. The optics alone could damage your company's reputation. If this became public knowledge, are you threatening to make this public, Olivia? I'm offering you a chance to resolve this privately. Admit the engagement was fake. Let Ms. Bennett find employment elsewhere and resume our relationship. Simple." Sophia watched Ethan's face as Olivia spoke, and she could practically see his thoughts shifting from defensive to strategic. When he looked at her, she saw something in his eyes that made her sit up straighter. "You know what, Olivia? You're absolutely right. We should resolve this situation properly." Sophia's heart sank. After everything, the dinner, the kiss, the conversation about being worth bringing home, was Ethan really going to choose the safe path and let Olivia win? "I'm so glad you're being reasonable about this," Olivia continued, satisfaction evident in her voice. "Which is why," Ethan continued, still looking directly at Sophia, "I'm going to do something I should have done weeks ago. Something that will make our situation completely clear to everyone involved." "What are you talking about?" Ethan stood up and walked around his desk to where Sophia was sitting. "I'm talking about making this real." And before Sophia could process what was happening, Ethan Carter dropped to one knee beside her chair, pulled a small velvet box from his jacket pocket, and opened it to reveal a stunning diamond ring that caught the morning light streaming through his office windows. "Sophia Bennett," he said, his voice steady and sure, despite the fact that Olivia was still listening on speakerphone, "will you marry me? For real this time?" The office went completely silent except for the sound of Sophia's heart pounding in her ears. She stared at Ethan, at the ring, at the man who had just proposed to her on speakerphone with his ex-girlfriend listening and his mother scheduled to arrive in 4 hours. "Ethan," she whispered, "what are you doing?" "I'm asking the woman I love to marry me," he said simply. "I'm tired of pretending this is about Olivia or investigations or strategic dating. I'm tired of questioning whether what we have is real. I love you, Sophia. I love your intelligence, your humor, your ability to call me out when I'm being ridiculous. I love that you transformed our marketing department in 3 weeks, and that you bring Luna treats, even though I never asked you to. I love that you charged me $500 for 5 minutes of fake engagement, and somehow made me want to spend the rest of my life earning the right to a real one." Sophia looked down at Ethan, this brilliant, complicated, wonderful man who was proposing to her while his ex-girlfriend listened on speakerphone, and realized that despite the absolute insanity of the situation, her answer was surprisingly clear. "Yes, yes, yes. You ridiculous, wonderful man. Yes, I'll marry you." Ethan slipped the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, which she would ask him about later, and stood to kiss her as Olivia's voice exploded through the speakerphone. "Are you insane? You've known this woman for 3 weeks. This is the most impulsive, irresponsible thing you've ever done." Ethan broke the kiss long enough to respond. "Olivia, I'd like you to meet my actual fiancée, Sophia. Say hello to Olivia." "Hello, Olivia," Sophia said, admiring the way the diamond caught the light on her finger. "Thanks for bringing us together." If you hadn't hired that private investigator, Ethan might never have realized he needed to stop overthinking what he wanted. "This is ridiculous, Ethan. You can't possibly think this will work. You're getting engaged to avoid admitting you lied about being engaged." "No," Ethan said, his arm around Sophia's waist. "I'm getting engaged because I realized the best lie I ever told was actually the truth. I was too scared to admit." There was a long pause. Then Olivia's voice came back, colder than before. "Fine, but don't expect me to be gracious when this implodes." "And it will implode, Ethan. You can't build a real relationship on a foundation of lies and performance." "You're probably right," Sophia said cheerfully. "Good thing our foundation is actually built on excellent coffee, shared business goals, and the fact that we make each other laugh. The lies and performance were just the opening act." Olivia hung up without another word. Ethan and Sophia stood in his office, officially engaged, holding each other and laughing with the kind of giddy relief that comes after surviving something that should have been a disaster, but turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you. "So," Sophia said, still admiring her ring, "want to tell me how you happen to have a perfectly sized engagement ring in your jacket pocket this morning?" "I bought it Wednesday night after our dinner," Ethan admitted. I couldn't stop thinking about what you said about not really performing, and I realized I wanted to stop performing entirely. I wanted this to be real. You bought an engagement ring after our first date? I bought an engagement ring after I realized our first date made me want to spend every day for the rest of my life finding new ways to make you smile like that. That's either the most romantic thing I've ever heard, or the most impulsive business decision you've ever made. Probably both. Ethan agreed. Though I should mention that my mother is still coming to lunch, and she's going to want to hear this entire story. Your mother is going to love hearing that you proposed to me on speakerphone while your ex-girlfriend was threatening to expose our fake relationship. Actually, she probably will. Mom has a very specific sense of humor about romantic chaos. As if summoned by their conversation, Ava's voice came through the intercom again. Mr. Carter, your mother is here early. She says she couldn't wait to meet Sophia, and she brought champagne. Champagne? Sophia looked at Ethan in panic. How does she already know about the engagement? Because, came a warm, amused voice from the office doorway. I've been standing outside this door for the last 5 minutes, listening to my son finally figure out what he actually wants. They turned to see a woman who was clearly Ethan's mother. The same intelligent blue eyes, the same confidence, though her hair was silver, and her smile was warmer than any expression Sophia had ever seen on Ethan's face. Mom, Ethan said, I'd like you to meet Sophia Bennett, the woman who inspired my son to propose on speakerphone to spite his ex-girlfriend, Eleanor Carter, interrupted with obvious delight. My dear, you are exactly as wonderful as I hoped you'd be. Mrs. Carter, I should probably explain about the circumstances of our relationship. Honey, you can call me Eleanor, and you don't need to explain anything. Any woman who can make my son act completely out of character in the best possible way is exactly the kind of daughter-in-law I've been hoping for. Even though we've only known each other for 3 weeks, especially because you've only known each other for 3 weeks and you're already bringing out the best in each other, Eleanor said. Then noticed the ring on Sophia's finger. Oh, Ethan, you used your grandmother's ring. Perfect choice. Grandmother's ring? Sophia looked at Ethan with wide eyes. My grandmother always said her ring would know the right woman when it met her, Ethan said softly. Turns out she was right. Eleanor clapped her hands together with delight. Well, this calls for champagne and a proper celebration. Ava, dear, could you call the restaurant and change our lunch reservation from 3 people to a celebration party, and perhaps see if you can arrange for some of Sophia's colleagues to join us? I'd love to meet the team that's been watching this romance develop. Oh, Mom, you don't need to. Ethan started. Ethan Carter, Eleanor interrupted, her tone firm but playful. You just got engaged in the most unconventional way possible to a woman who clearly adores you, despite your tendency to overthink everything. We are absolutely celebrating properly. An hour later, the private dining room at Daniel was filled with an unlikely collection of people. Eleanor Carter holding court at one end of the table, sharing embarrassing stories about Ethan's childhood. The entire marketing team peppering Sophia with questions about wedding plans she hadn't had time to think about. Ava documenting everything with the efficiency of a professional event planner. And Luna the dog, who had somehow been smuggled into the restaurant and was charming everyone with her impeccable table manners. So, let me get this straight, Mia said, raising her champagne glass. You two met when Olivia was stalking Ethan. You pretended to be engaged for $500. You got hired 3 days later. You fake-dated to fool Olivia's investigation. And then you got really engaged this morning on speakerphone while she was listening. That's surprisingly accurate. Sophia laughed. It's like a romantic comedy written by someone on too much caffeine, Lucas added. The best love stories usually are, Eleanor said warmly. The question is, what happens next? Ethan and Sophia looked at each other across the table, still wearing slightly stunned expressions from the morning's events. Well, Ethan said slowly, I suppose we plan a wedding and navigate the corporate policies about married couples working together, Sophia added, and figure out how to blend 2 completely different lives into something that works for both of us, Ethan continued, and deal with whatever Olivia's next move is going to be, Sophia finished. Oh, don't worry about Olivia, Eleanor waved dismissively. I had a lovely conversation with her mother this morning. Apparently, Olivia has been investigating several of her ex-boyfriends recently. Her family is encouraging her to focus her energy on more productive pursuits, like her career in another city, preferably one very far from New York. You called Olivia's mother? Ethan stared at his mother in amazement. Darling, Olivia isn't the only one who knows how to conduct thorough investigations. The difference is that I use my powers for good instead of romantic manipulation. I'm beginning to understand where Ethan gets his strategic thinking from, Sophia murmured. Oh, honey. Ethan got his strategic thinking from his father. His romantic chaos? That's all from my side of the family. As the celebration continued around them, Ethan leaned over to whisper in Sophia's ear. Any regrets about getting involved with my complicated life? Are you kidding? Sophia whispered back, her hand finding his under the table. 3 weeks ago, my biggest excitement was wondering if my upstairs neighbor would practice tuba scales or full songs. Now I'm engaged to a billionaire CEO. I have my dream job. Your mother wants to adopt me, and Luna thinks I'm her favorite human. You are Luna's favorite human, Ethan confirmed. She's been sleeping on your side of the bed every night this week. That's because you've been working late every night this week, and she gets lonely. I've been working late because we're launching 3 new products next quarter, and I want to make sure we maintain the momentum you created with the rebrand. See, even your workaholism is romantic. Now, everything about my life is better with you in it, Ethan said, turning to face her fully, including the parts that used to be boring or stressful or complicated, even the part where your mother is planning our summer house purchase and our hypothetical children's education. Especially that part, Ethan grinned, because a year ago, I couldn't imagine wanting any of those things. Now, I can't imagine not wanting them with you. Before Sophia could respond, Mia appeared at their side with Noah and Lucas in tow. Sorry to interrupt the romantic moment, Mia said cheerfully, but the photographer wants some shots of the whole team, and apparently, Luna is refusing to cooperate unless Sophia is in the pictures. She's very particular about her photo shoots, Lucas added. Seriously. They all looked across the dining room to where Luna was sitting stubbornly beside the photographer's equipment, tail wagging but refusing to move. Despite the photographer's increasingly creative attempts to coax her into position, I think she wants a family photo, Noah said with a grin. Well, Sophia laughed, taking Ethan's hand. I suppose we shouldn't keep the family waiting. As they walked across the dining room toward their team, their dog, and their photographer, Sophia reflected on how strange it was that the most important decisions in life often happened when you weren't trying to make them at all. She'd never set out to fall in love with her boss, or to transform a company's entire brand identity, or to become part of a family that included a scheming mother-in-law and a golden retriever with strong opinions about photography. But somehow, all of those unexpected things had turned into exactly the life she'd never known she wanted. Hey, Ethan, she said as they posed for pictures with their ridiculous, wonderful, completely chaotic chosen family. Yeah? Thanks for being crazy enough to pay me $500 to be your fake fiancée. Thanks for being crazy enough to say yes, he replied, kissing her as cameras flashed around them. Both ways, Sophia laughed against his lips. And in the background, just barely audible over the sounds of celebration and laughter, and Luna's excited barking, the soft sound of champagne glasses clinking, marking the beginning of a life that was as unpredictable as it was perfect. Epilogue. 6 months later, the Carter Technologies annual holiday party was held in the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel, with Manhattan's elite mingling beneath crystal chandeliers and discussing everything from market trends to the surprising romance that had become the talk of New York's business community. Sophia Carter, she still got a little thrill every time she saw her new name on business cards, stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, watching snowflakes drift past while balancing a champagne flute and trying not to laugh at her husband's animated conversation with the mayor about AI applications in city planning. Mrs. Carter, a familiar voice said behind her, you look absolutely radiant. Sophia turned to find Olivia approaching, elegant as ever in a stunning navy gown, though her smile seemed genuinely warm rather than strategically polite. Olivia, Sophia replied, genuinely surprised. I didn't expect to see you here. I'm here with Senator Thompson, Olivia said, nodding toward a distinguished older man near the bar. We've been dating for 3 months. Turns out, politicians appreciate thorough research skills, even more than tech billionaires do. That's wonderful. Are you happy? Olivia considered this for a moment. You know, I actually am. Richard appreciates my intensity. He says my investigative nature is an asset rather than a character flaw. She paused, then added with surprising sincerity, I owe you and Ethan an apology and possibly a thank you. For what? For helping me realize that trying to force someone to want you back is exhausting and ultimately pointless. Watching Ethan propose to you on speakerphone was the wake-up call I needed. No man who truly loved me would go to such elaborate lengths to avoid me. Olivia, let me finish. Olivia smiled. You two are perfect for each other in a way that Ethan and I never were. He lights up when you walk into a room. You challenge him without trying to change him. And, more importantly, you both seem to genuinely enjoy each other's company, which was something Ethan and I never really had. Before Sophia could respond, Ethan appeared at her side, slipping his arm around her waist with the natural ease of a man completely comfortable with public displays of affection. "Olivia," he said pleasantly, "nice to see you. How are you enjoying the party?" "Very much. I was just telling your wife that you two seem genuinely happy." "We are," Ethan replied simply, pressing a kiss to Sophia's temple, though I have to admit, married life is even more chaotic than our dating life was. "How so?" Olivia asked, seeming genuinely curious. "Well," Sophia laughed. 3 weeks after the wedding, Ethan decided he wanted to learn to cook. He nearly burned down our kitchen trying to make breakfast in bed for our 1-month anniversary. "It was supposed to be romantic," Ethan defended. "How was I supposed to know that smoke alarms are so sensitive?" And then there was the incident with Luna and the wedding cake tasting. Sophia continued, "That wasn't my fault. You're the one who said she could have just a tiny taste. A tiny taste, not half the cake." Olivia watched their playful banter with something that looked almost like envy, but in a good way. "You know, I don't think I ever saw Ethan laugh this much when we were together. That's because Sophia finds my disasters endearing instead of embarrassing," Ethan said. "Last week, I got locked out of my own penthouse because I forgot my keys inside. Instead of lecturing me about being more responsible, she brought pizza and champagne, and we had a picnic in the hallway until building security could let us back in. It was actually quite romantic," Sophia added. "Very exclusive venue, only accessible to people locked out of their own homes. See what I mean?" Olivia smiled. "You two are disgustingly perfect together. I should go find Richard before he starts explaining campaign finance reform to someone who can't escape." She paused, then added, "Congratulations, both of you. On the marriage, on the company's incredible growth this year, and on proving that sometimes the most unexpected love stories are the best ones." As Olivia walked away, Ethan turned to Sophia with raised eyebrows. "That went better than expected. She seems genuinely happy. And she's right. We are disgustingly perfect together." "Speaking of perfect," Ethan said, reaching into his jacket pocket, "I have something for you. Ethan Carter, if you pull out another piece of jewelry, I'm going to start thinking you have a shopping addiction." "It's not jewelry," he laughed, handing her a folded piece of paper. "It's something better." Sophia unfolded the paper to find a printed email. "To Ethan Carter, CEO, from Fortune Magazine Editorial Board. Re. 40. Under 40 Marketing Visionary Recognition. Dear Mr. Carter, we are pleased to inform you that your wife, Sophia Carter, has been selected for Fortune's 40 Under 40 list in recognition of her revolutionary approach to corporate marketing and her role in transforming Carter Technologies into one of the most recognizable brands in the tech industry." "Ethan!" Sophia gasped. "When? This afternoon. They want to do a feature story about our unconventional love story and how personal relationships can inspire professional excellence." Ethan grinned. "Apparently, our marketing campaigns have been so successful that other companies are trying to replicate our authentic storytelling approach." "This is incredible," Sophia said, rereading the email, "though I have to laugh at them calling our love story unconventional. If they only knew the half of it, well, we could always tell them the complete truth. I'm sure they'd love to hear about the $500 fake engagement and Olivia's private investigator. Are you insane? That would make us sound like characters in a ridiculous romantic comedy." "We are characters in a ridiculous romantic comedy," Ethan pointed out. "We just happen to be living it instead of watching it." Across the ballroom, Eleanor Carter appeared at their side with her usual impeccable timing and a fresh champagne flute. "What are you two whispering about over here?" she asked. "People are starting to talk about how the hosts are hiding in the corner instead of mingling with their guests." "Mom, Sophia just made Fortune's 40 Under 40 list." "Oh, darling, that's wonderful." Eleanor beamed, though not entirely surprising. Anyone who can increase customer engagement by 60% in 6 months and plan a wedding for 300 people simultaneously clearly has exceptional organizational skills. "The wedding planning was mostly you and Ava," Sophia protested. "The wedding planning was a team effort," Eleanor corrected. "Speaking of which, have you two given any more thought to my suggestion about the Hamptons house for summer weekends? The one with the guest cottage that would be perfect for when you start having children? Mom, Ethan warned. We've been married for 4 months. Exactly. You're not getting any younger, and I'm not getting any younger. And Luna needs playmates. As if summoned by the mention of her name, Luna appeared beside them, wearing a festive red bow tie and carrying what appeared to be a dinner roll in her mouth. Luna, Sophia sighed. Did you steal that from the catering table? The golden retriever wagged her tail innocently, then dropped the roll at Eleanor's feet like an offering. She's bringing me dinner, Eleanor said delightedly. Such a thoughtful granddaughter. Granddaughter? Ethan stared at his mother. Well, she's certainly not your child, and she's clearly part of the family, so granddaughter seems appropriate. By that logic, half the animals in the Manhattan Zoo could be your grandchildren. Sophia laughed. Don't give her ideas, Ethan muttered. Oh, speaking of ideas, Eleanor continued, apparently oblivious to her son's horror. I had lunch with Olivia's mother yesterday. Lovely woman. She mentioned that Olivia and Senator Thompson are quite serious. Apparently, he's planning to propose soon. That's wonderful news, Sophia said sincerely. Olivia deserves to be happy with someone who appreciates her intensity. Yes. Well, according to her mother, Olivia has been telling everyone that you and Ethan have the most romantic love story she's ever heard. She's apparently turned your relationship into quite the cautionary tale about not fighting against fate. Cautionary tale? Ethan raised an eyebrow. More like inspiration, really. She tells people that watching you two fall in love taught her the difference between trying to convince someone to love you and finding someone who can't help loving you. That's actually quite sweet, Sophia said. It is, Eleanor agreed, though I still think she hired that private investigator primarily because she was bored and needed a project. Olivia always did like complicated puzzles. Speaking of complicated puzzles, Ethan said, checking his watch, we should probably start the formal program soon. The board members are getting restless, and Noah from marketing has been taking selfies with the mayor for the past 20 minutes. 1 more minute, Sophia said, looking around the ballroom at the sight of her marketing team laughing with Ethan's executives. Eleanor charming a group of investors, Luna making friends with every waiter in the room, and Olivia across the room looking genuinely happy with her senator. What are you thinking about? Ethan asked softly. Just all of this. 6 months ago, I was eating sad desk salads and wondering if my biggest career achievement would be getting the coffee budget increased. Now I'm married to you. I have my dream job. Your mother wants to adopt me, and Luna thinks I'm her favorite human. You are Luna's favorite human, Ethan confirmed. She's been sleeping on your side of the bed every night this week. That's because you've been working late every night this week, and she gets lonely. I've been working late because we're launching 3 new products next quarter, and I want to make sure we maintain the momentum you created with the rebrand. See, even your workaholism is romantic. Now, everything about my life is better with you in it, Ethan said, turning to face her fully, including the parts that used to be boring or stressful or complicated, even the part where your mother is planning our summer house purchase and our hypothetical children's education, especially that part, Ethan grinned, because a year ago, I couldn't imagine wanting any of those things. Now, I can't imagine not wanting them with you. As they walked across the ballroom toward their team, their dog, and their photographer, Sophia reflected on how strange it was that the most important decisions in life often happened when you weren't trying to make them at all. She'd never set out to fall in love with her boss, or to transform a company's entire brand identity, or to become part of a family that included a scheming mother-in-law and a golden retriever with strong opinions about photography. But somehow, all of those unexpected things had turned into exactly the life she'd never known she wanted. Hey, Ethan, she said as they posed for pictures with their ridiculous, wonderful, completely chaotic chosen family. Yeah? Thanks for being crazy enough to pay me $500 to be your fake fiancée. Thanks for being crazy enough to say yes, he replied, kissing her as cameras flashed around them, both ways. Sophia laughed against his lips, and in the background, just barely audible over the sounds of celebration and laughter and Luna's excited barking, the soft sound of snow continuing to fall outside the windows of the Plaza Hotel, blanketing Manhattan in the kind of perfect winter evening that belonged in fairy tales, which, as it turned out, was exactly what they were living.